Is there any volume on the line?
Yes.
I'm sorry, it is our, I apologize.
We just turned it on. You're live.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I see a lot of faces here today. Thank you for coming to our legislative meeting this month. I'm going to open the meeting at 6:06. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Dr. Whitman is excused. Andy Dennison is excused. Ben Vitale.
Here.
Chris Petrus.
Present.
Pinckney.
Here.
Keith Batman.
Here.
Hans Petcher.
Here.
Mark Strong.
Here.
Heidi Nightingale.
Present.
Elaine Daly.
Here.
Tricia Kerr.
Here.
Timothy Lattimore.
Present.
Michael Didio is excused. Ryan Foley.
Present.
Aileen McDade Coleman.
Present.
Mike's son is way in. We just call him son.
Public hearing.
You want to do it?
Go, Mayor.
Okay. Today, we're having a public hearing around authorizing the expenditure of funds from a reserve fund account, number A18838, Pavilion Building and Equipment for replacement of a refrigeration unit. This public hearing will take an hour. There is a number to call in if anyone wishes to speak to the public hearing. That number is 315-294-8051. So please call in if you wish to be heard. And then when we get to privilege of the floor, if anyone in this room wishes to be heard, you may let us know then.
Proclamation, Child Welfare Workforce Appreciation Month in Cayuga County, September 2021.
If I could be joined up front with Rebecca Fagan, I'd like to present her this proclamation today. And Christine Bianco. Child Welfare Workforce Appreciation Month in Cayuga County, September 2021. Whereas in our democratic society, it is an important civic responsibility and a great honor for any governmental body to grant public recognition, admiration, and gratitude to these very citizens who help build this community and influence the future of its citizens. And whereas Cayuga County wishes to celebrate the dedicated men and women who selflessly give their talents, do their jobs to empower children, youth, and families facing a variety of life challenges and obstacles. And whereas Cayuga County recognizes the hard work and dedication of the child welfare workforce as their vital work impacts and transforms lives in our community. And whereas the month of September is nationally recognized as Child Welfare Workforce Appreciation Month, and Cayuga County acknowledges the importance of the welfare of a public declaration of our community support for those who work in child welfare, as they help to maintain a positive quality of life for our children, youth, and families. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Aileen McNabb Coleman, Chair of the Cayuga County Legislature, Elaine Daly, Chair of Health and Human Services, and fellow legislators do hereby proclaim our gratitude and urge our residents of our county to join with us in recognizing Child Welfare Workforce Appreciation Month in Cayuga County for September 2020. I present this to Child Welfare Workforce and CSS Deputy Director. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Have you say a couple words? You may. Okay. Very brief. On behalf of the Department of Social Services, I would like to say thank you to the Cayuga County Legislature for taking the time to recognize the DSS child welfare staff and the work that they do. The work of this child welfare workforce is incredibly challenging. The staff, from the caseworkers to the supervisory staff the support staff. There's such a team that is dedicated every day to helping the most vulnerable children and families in our community. They do deserve our recognition and our support and our appreciation. So thank you again for honoring them tonight, and thank you to all of them for their dedication, their commitment, and the essential work that they perform for the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We have two presentations on our agenda this evening. First, we have Jenna DeRario, planner, and she's going to update the Cayuga County local solid waste management plan for us tonight. And is accompanied by our planning director, Steve Lynch.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
For clarification, masks, when we're sitting down or speaking, can we remove them? I think it's hard for the public to, if they're listening.
The legislators your desks are spaced apart, so when you are seated, you may remove your mask if you wish, or if you don't, that's up to you. But you may sit without your mask in the seats that were provided for you.
Our speakers, can they remove their mask while they're speaking?
If they're within distance 6 feet of someone near them and they want to remove their mask, they may while they're speaking.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce our newest planner, Jenna DeRario, who joined the county on June 28th. And one of her first projects is to update the countywide solid waste management plan, because it is a countywide plan and has impacts potentially throughout the whole county. I thought it was appropriate for her to present this plan to the whole legislature so that she can engage with you and maybe get some direction as to where we want to go in the future with solid waste as the plan progresses. So without anything further, Jenna?
Steve. Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you all, and thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. As Steve mentioned, my name is Jenna DeRario. I'm the newest planner here at the County Planning Department, and my first major project is updating the local solid waste management plan here in the county. Next slide, please. So tonight I'll be giving you a brief introduction of the New York State overarching solid waste management goals and speaking about how that relates to the role of Cayuga County in this process to update the plan. And then I'll be taking you through the project schedule, which will be 4 phases, and then giving you a brief overview of a comparison of what each county in our region is doing in terms of solid waste management activities to start the conversation of where we want to go in the future with solid waste in the county. And then I will be giving you an outline of the upcoming steps that we'll be taking in the next few months to get this process started. And finally, we can open the floor to any questions that you have. So it's the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, which I'll refer to as the DEC in this presentation, provides oversight and regulations to all of the counties within New York State in terms of solid waste management activities. And so they define solid waste as any discarded or abandoned material. And so within this report, we will be categorizing solid waste into 3 major categories. One being municipal solid waste, that can be general garbage, recyclables, appliances, furniture, and then we will have the second category of construction, demolition, debris, and the third category of biosolids, which can include sludge from wastewater treatment plants. And so the latest plan for the DEC was drafted in 2010 and finalized, and it emphasizes reducing waste disposal to 0.6 pounds per person per day by 2030. And so to give you a comparison, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, currently Americans generate about 4.9 pounds of waste per day per person. So we're looking at very steep reduction goals for solid waste going forward. And the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation aims to collaborate with community stakeholders, local governments, and other state agencies in order to reach these goals by 2030. Next slide, please. And for this presentation, we'll be focusing on the role of Cayuga County and the role of local governments. So Cayuga County is one of 69 state mandated planning units within that is mandated and responsible for providing and updating a local solid waste management plan for all of the municipalities within the county. And so a local solid waste management plan, it provides an overview of our present day current services for residents and also analyzes the present waste generation here in the county. And then it goes into future recommendations to reduce waste and or dispose of waste in a responsible way. And it does fulfill a requirement that all waste facilities are located within a municipality that is within a New York State DEC approved local solid waste management plan. Next slide, please. And so here I have an outline of our project schedule, which will be 4 different phases. Phases 1, 2, and 3 will aim to create a draft that in phase 4, after a public comment period, we will be sending out to the DEC for review and approval. And we're aiming to cover all of the requirements from the DEC within these first 3 phases. And so as you'll see later in my presentation, we're looking for very specific details to be included in the report. And so we want to be as thorough as possible. So when we send the draft out, we can get it approved as quickly as possible. And next slide, please. So I'll be taking you through the 4 different phases and giving you an overview of the tasks that we will be completing each phase. So phase 1 has 4 major tasks, and it is looking to do background research on past activities in the planning unit or the county, and determining where we've been to know where we're at this current point. Next slide, please. So for task 1, we will be evaluating the previous solid waste management plan here in the county. And we'll be looking at what strategies and recommendations were completed, how successful were they, are they still being done today? And then looking at, are there any major changes to the planning unit, such as a big one was the closure of the landfill to become a transfer station. That will have to be mentioned in the report. And then looking at the 2010 materials conservation study, which was done in collaboration with the city of Auburn. And that will be a resource, especially in our survey development, because it did include surveys to several different stakeholders. Next slide, please. Then we will be looking to analyze the planning unit's demographics. So this is a requirement from the DEC that we have a complete overview of how many people are in each municipality, because this has a direct impact on the waste generation in each municipality. And we will also be looking at the comparison of rural versus urban, because this could impact the types of services that are available for residents. And we will also be describing any major industries that can be found in the county, because this will also have a direct effect on waste generation. Next slide, please. And in the third task in phase 1 is we are preparing for phase 2. So we will be conducting survey work during phase 2. So for phase 1, we will be developing these surveys, and they will be surveys that will be sent out to all residents within the county, as well as a survey sent to all of the municipalities and surveys sent to all the private hauler companies within the county. And this is going to help us in phase 2 to analyze the waste stream and determine where waste is going, how much is being generated, and all the information that we will need to know for that aspect. Next slide, please. And then finally, phase 1 we will be fulfilling a DEC requirement to describe who is responsible for solid waste management activities in the county, describing what regulations we already have in place, and also describing how these activities are financed here by the planning unit. slide, please. So as I mentioned in phase 2, we will be analyzing the planning unit's waste stream. And so this is really going to be the bulk of the report so that we know where we currently are at with waste generation here in the county. So we're aiming to answer 4 major questions. Next slide, please. Question 1 being, where is waste being generated? So we need to create a list of all the major organizations that are waste generators here in the county. So for example, we need to be able to list how many school districts there are, how many grocery retail stores there are, how many hospitals, because this might infer what kind of waste is being generated and also how much waste is being generated based on that number. Next slide, please. So the second question we need to ask or answer in phase 2 is, where is waste being disposed? So this is looking at where are the active transfer stations and recycling centers here in the county. And then looking at, since there is no active sanitary landfill in the county, where is waste being, where is the endpoint of waste outside of the county? So we need to determine where it is being sent, if it is being disposed in a landfill. And then we will be looking at what programs we already have in place to reduce, reuse, rebuy, and recycle. As I mentioned, New York State is emphasizing waste reduction, so we need to see where we are at in terms of current programs to reduce waste. And one thing, an example would be for public outreach and education. The county does already provide educational resources to residents on how to dispose of hard to dispose items, and they also provide annual recycling events for things such as HHW, tires, and electronics. And then we'll be looking both widely at the county level and then what services are available in each municipality. So for example, volume-based pricing incentives are an example would be a per tag fee. So the more bags you have in trash, the more money you're paying. So it incentivizes you theoretically to produce less waste. And we do have some municipalities that have that already in place with their programs. Next slide, please. And then you'll be, after looking at these 3 major questions, looking at how much waste is being generated. And I put this one last because we need to know where trash is going and recycling before we can determine the actual numbers and data behind it. So once we know where it's going, we can gather the DEC annual reports and or contact the facility to get reporting on their waste, how much waste is coming in and what type it is, so that we have an idea of what is actually being generated here in the county. And during this phase, as I mentioned, we'll be sending out the surveys, and that will also help to infer, what services are being provided by municipalities, what programs are residents using that we have in place already. So we get a better idea of the current state of solid waste management here in the county. Next slide, please. So phase 3, we're looking towards the future. So we have 3 major tasks to determine where we want to go with solid waste management programming here in the county. Next slide, please. So number 1, we're going to use a DEC tool that is available that we can calculate the projected waste here in the county until the end of the planning period. And so that planning period will be 2030. So I'll be using demographic data that we've collected in phase 1 to then use the tool to project how much waste will be generated based on changes in population and other factors that are within the algorithm that the DEC provides. And these results may infer potential recommendations that we could provide in terms of programming. So, for example, if the projection tool shows that there is a substantial increase in food scraps, we might want to recommend organics recovery as part of our programming. So this will really help us to understand where we're going to be at in the next few years. Next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, that tool will help to infer the programming that we might potentially recommend within the plan. And so this slide, it has 15 programs that the DEC requires that we mentioned in the report. And I want to emphasize that that doesn't mean that we have to implement or recommend all of these programs. We really want this plan to be effective and realistic. So the DEC requires that we mention them, and we can answer with three different answers. So one, we can say, yes, we will implement this, and this is how we will do it. The second choice is we can say we've already implemented this, and we will continue to, or change it to make it more efficient. Or third, we can answer by saying this is not applicable in our county. So we have those three options in terms of writing it up in the report. So we really want to kind of pick the recommendations that we think will be the most, provide the most impact here in the county while balancing the resources that are available. Next slide, please. And so once we pick the recommendations and the programming that we would like to do going forward, we'll create a appropriate timetable that will be provided at the end of the report. So we have the planning period being from 2021 to 2030. So we'll have to explain for each year what we will be doing in terms of implementing the plan. And during this part, we can also evaluate if there are potential partnerships with other organizations. We've historically been collaborating with CCE and Soil and Water on many of our recycling events. So continuing to have them part of the conversation, and then also looking at potential partnerships with other planning units or counties that are near us. And so next slide, please. So once we're done with phase 3, we've gone through the past, present, and future aspects of solid waste. We will have a draft that is completed, and we will first hold a public meeting to present the draft to the public and let them give us any comments or feedback, and then we will make the draft public for 45 days. And following that, we will summarize the comments and address any of them as needed. And then we'll be sending it to the DEC for review and approval. And so by doing a thorough process in the first 3 phases, we can make sure that we have a robust draft available by phase 4. Next slide, please. And so here, after giving you a presentation of the project schedule and what tasks we will need to do, and kind of thinking about how we will need to look into the future on what solid waste management activities the county will be providing or continuing to provide, I wanted to give a comparison of Cayuga County and other counties in the region on what they're doing in terms of solid waste. And I want to emphasize that wherever we are on the spectrum that I have up here is fine. The most important thing is that going forward, we have consensus on what the role of the county will be. So as you can see, Cayuga County is more on the minimally involved side, as we do plan yearly events and provide those educational resources, but we don't have any county-run facilities here. So we can stay there minimally involved, or we can shift over if needed, or whatever is deemed appropriate. And so this kind of gives an example of how extensively involved some counties are. So moving over to Portland County, they do have a county landfill, and they also provide yearly recycling programs, but they also don't provide any county-wide waste collection services. And then comparing to Madison County, who has a recycling coordinator, they operate several facilities, and but they also let municipalities choose how to collect the waste. And then comparing it to Tompkins County, who is extensively involved, and they provide an updated database for residents. They partner with food organizations to reduce food waste, and they contract a private hauler to collect all county recyclables. But they do have 14 staff plus facility staff. And so you can see how the different involvement, how involved counties can be, and how the choice going forward can be to either shift on the spectrum or stay where we're at. And so going forward, I would like to be working with you all to determine that role so that we can tailor these recommendations to the consensus, the general consensus. And so that it will be an effective plan, as I said, and realistic with whatever resources are available. So next slide, please. So in the upcoming months, we will be sending out those surveys to all of the municipalities, residents, and private haulers. We'll also be conducting interviews over the phone with any town officials, as well as waste facility managers. And that will be done on a case-by-case basis, kind of depending on the services that are provided for each municipality. For example, I will be calling, if there's a transfer station manager, calling them up to speak about what services they provide or how their facility is managed. And then we'll be gathering those annual reports and doing an analysis on the waste generation here in the county. And then from these activities, we can outline what current events we have that emphasize waste reduction. And then, as I mentioned in the previous slide, we would like to collaborate with the appropriate committee in order to determine the future role of the county in solid waste management activities. So I look forward to working with you on that so that we can all have a general consensus on the role of the county. And so if you have any further questions after tonight, you can always contact me by email or phone, or come down to the 5th floor. I'm happy to talk about the project or hear any feedback that you may have.
Thank you, Jenna, for a great presentation, very thorough, and I appreciate understanding what's happening in the county. So thank you for providing that information. Does anyone have any questions for Jenna?
Okay, well,
Let 'em know.
Years ago, I think we had about 3,000 landfills in the state, and we're down to, because DEC couldn't manage them all, so they reduced them. Do we know how much aerospace is left in upstate New York? Like Seneca Meadows has talked about shutting down their operation. And the last thing we need is, you know, years ago, they used to just have barges going around in circles with waste. Your presentation was excellent, I want to say, but I'd like to also, could we see whether or not, what our industrial base needs in regards of waste? I know, like steel mill produces slag, and Hill-Rom, Welch Allen produces, you know, different waste products. Can we have a waste exchange included in there so that we can get a regional type of thing where one person's waste is another person's, they might need, make whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice presentation.
Any other questions for Jenna? Legislator Kerr?
Hi, Jenna. Great presentation. I loved it and learned a lot about what you're going to be working on. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Tim said. That was my comment as well in terms of outreach to our manufacturers and industries. I didn't know if you were going to be doing any direct surveying or engagement with them, but I think there would be value in having those conversations, and as they're looking at their own performance and trying to reduce their footprint and become more sustainable businesses. There may be some really good synergies there. And my other question was just, you mentioned that goal, that initial goal, that we pound per person goal. Where did that DEC number come from? And how realistic is that? Just thinking about going from like a 5 to a 0.6.
So I wouldn't be able to give you specifics on how they produced it. I know it's an algorithm based on population, and then they add in aspects of, if you do a certain amount of activities, we'll give you this number. And that's kind of how our waste projection tool works, is we add a number saying we will reduce by this much. So this is how it's kind of like a calculating through the projection tool, which I could get more information on how the actual algorithm works. And it is a very steep goal in reduction. And I think that they are definitely leaning on all of their planning units, trying as much as they can, but knowing, I mean, it is a goal at the end of the day, but that each planning unit participating in their most effective way can reduce it as much as possible. And that's a great mention by both of you about the industry, and that's part of my work. Not necessarily doing a survey like the paper or online format for the residents and municipalities, but doing a lot of outreach over the phone first to kind of have these conversations with different organizations or businesses, seeing like where are their needs, and then from that information, if we need a survey following up that gives more concise data, that will be part of my work as well.
Thank you.
Legislator Bailey?
If you said this, I apologize, but this comprehensive look and this update of this plan is a required activity every so many years, or is this something that the county is responsible to do on an ongoing basis? And when's the last time this was done?
So the last time that it was completed was 1992. So I'm working forward from that, and then every 2 years it will be updated by myself or whoever is in that position. So we'll continue completing those reports to the DEC, which my predecessor was completing, and then we are now obligated to redo an updated plan.
Because it's been so long since it's been done.
Yes.
Okay.
Legislator Lattimore?
I'd like to have Rich investigate. At one time, we had a trash banned from importing trash. I think it was over brewer's yeast from the Budweiser plant.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see, do we still have a law in place where we can't do waste exchange? Or I think the yeast was fed to the cows and stuff, and it was turned out to be a pretty good product. But see whether or not that's still in effect. Thanks.
Any other questions for Jenna? Thank you very much for the informative presentation, and welcome to your county. We're happy to have you. Okay, we have another presentation on our agenda this evening. Sheriff Skay is going to do a presentation on body worn cameras. Welcome, Sheriff and Lieutenant.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm joined tonight with by Lieutenant Mike Wellauer. I think most of you probably know Lieutenant Wellauer. He's in charge of our road patrol division at the sheriff's office. And if everything's working okay, we should have Detective Lieutenant Fred Cornelius on with us virtually. Are you there, Fred?
There he is.
Oh, hopefully I am.
Sounds like we got it.
Hi, Lieutenant.
So as you all recall, back in the first part of April, we did submit our police community collaborative plan to the governor's office that we had worked on. A number of you here in the legislature and key stakeholders in the community took a look at our law enforcement efforts here in our community and put together a plan as to what we wanted to see moving forward, what the community wanted to see moving forward. One of the areas that we touched on quite a bit was transparency and what we can do to improve upon that and make sure that we're being as transparent as possible. And while having those discussions, we started to talk about body worn cameras, and it was quite evident from the surveys that we put out that the community wanted us to explore this. And I'm sure that many of you will recall through the implementation schedule that we put together with that plan, it was decided that I would come back to your body in September of this year with some information about cameras, body worn cameras, how we could potentially implement them, costs and that type of thing. So following that, I did ask Lieutenant Cornelius and Lieutenant Wellauer if they would put together a proposal to bring to you tonight. And I did ask if we could come 1 month early from what the implementation plan had recommended, just because we have a grant opportunity that could help cover some of the costs should we decide to move in that direction. And I was hoping to get some feedback from your body, but I am going to turn the presentation over to Lieutenant Cornelius, and Lieutenant Wellauer and I will be here as well to participate with that. If you could, Lieutenant Cornelius, go ahead.
Live from Nashville. So we can go right to the next slide. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight is everybody's seen video from body worn cameras. Everybody kind of knows what it looks like. We are looking at Axon Body 3 cameras, which is their newest product. It is a ruggedized body worn camera that includes encrypted video. One of the important things that that we're always concerned about is the security of the video itself, for our own purposes and for the purposes of protecting the privacy of the public. So this is encrypted video. It wouldn't be able to be, hacked, you wouldn't think, or anything like that. This particular product has a live map function, so that it could be used as in addition to the video and audio function. It could be used in a command function for incidents where we would be able to live stream video directly to a command post or to a center. It would also have the ability to, if an officer was away from their vehicle. Right now we have vehicle locators in the vehicles, so you can see where people are or where their vehicle is, not necessarily the person. This would expand that to to if an officer was away from their vehicle, it would enhance their safety by giving us the ability to see where they were on a map, when they're away from their vehicle. One of the other things that I think is important to note is the cameras themselves are designed to see what the human eye sees. So if it's dark out, obviously it's dark, but we can see certain things. We wouldn't want the camera to be enhanced like night vision or something like that, because we want to be able to go back and see exactly what the police officer saw at the time of whatever interaction they were having. And Axon has developed these cameras based on that idea that it's going to be able to reproduce the events as well as they can to show what the police officer saw at the time of the incident. We can go to the next slide. So what do we need body-worn cameras for? The sheriff has mentioned already that this is partially in direct response to the community survey and the expectations of the people that we serve. In addition to that, this is exactly what somebody saw. This is a documentation of an event from start to finish. It's not a snippet. It's not a piece of that event. It's the entire event. It's video, it's audio. So it's the best evidence for an investigation, either a criminal investigation or an investigation into a complaint or something of that nature. There is the ability to, because we're able to document these things, we reduce our civil liability, because we're able to say exactly what happened. We're able to say, this is what occurred. We know this is what occurred because we have a video of the entire event. One of the other aspects of body-worn cameras is it we'll say encourages policy compliance from our officers. Not that we believe that they're not in compliance, but it gives us the ability to monitor compliance with policy. And we're in the business of protecting the citizens of Cayuga County, and this tool would help us do that. It's going to better protect the citizens of Cayuga County, better protect their civil rights, their all of their rights to be able to go back and review these things as needed. And of course, our job is not only to protect, our job is protect the citizens. Our job is, as administrators at the police department, is to protect our officers as well. And this will help us do that for the same reasons that it protects the citizens. The best evidence of an incident is the total, as much information as you can get, and this gives us the ability to do that. The transparency of our operation, obviously there would be a mechanism, whether it be a FOIL or something along those lines, that we would work with the county attorney's office about before any video could be released beyond the release to the district attorney's office. But this would allow us to have a better transparency of operations, which is another thing that the community was very interested in, is making sure that our policies, which we now have online, our procedures, or our transparency of operations, we're able to monitor the events, not only kind of retroactively, but as they unfold, and be able to respond to citizen inquiries or those type of things in a more responsive way. You guys got any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so just to expand upon that, one of the concerns that I have in age is that everybody out there has a video camera in their pocket. We all do. We've got cell phones, we have video. The general public, people that we serve, people that we interact with, whether positive or negative, can take as long a video or as short a video as they want of an incident that we're dealing with. My concern is we're dealing with particular incidents, and I believe this does happen, often out there across the country. A small snippet of video can be taken by somebody interacting with law enforcement that really doesn't show the whole picture. And without us having that full video of what really happened, it can be very difficult for us as law enforcement officers to establish what really happened, what led up to that incident, whether it be a use of force incident that we're forced to engage in, or whatever that might be. So if we don't have that and somebody has a short snippet of video, it really can be detrimental to our cases, to proving what we actually did. People will form their opinions based on that 15 seconds rather than a video of the whole incident. So I feel very strongly, for a number of reasons, but that's one reason I think that we need to protect our people, allow them to have a full accounting of what happened, not just what somebody in the public provides that doesn't give a full picture. Certainly, it is the best evidence that we can possibly provide. I mean, it's the actual incident. So what better way can you provide that evidence than that? And transparency, again, there's no better way to be transparent than showing exactly why we did what we did and having the evidence to back that up.
So you can go to the next slide. So when you talk about the pros, you always have to talk about the cons. And in this particular situation, I think that there aren't a lot of drawbacks that don't relate to cost. The initial cost to the county, it's not an inconsequential cost. I mean, we try to mitigate that some with federal grant money, and I'm going to talk about that in a future slide. And that the reality is that if we were to implement this technology, it would really absolutely require the addition of another clerk to handle things like retention, redaction, and discovery of the data that we would be producing. And we're going to talk about that on the next slide. Go ahead to the next one. So this system has, as a part of it, it has software, obviously, that we would need to have to go ahead and redact certain things in the video for for different reasons. One of those being the personal privacy of the individuals that we are dealing with. One of the realities of police work is that you are sometimes in situations where people may not be camera ready, and in certain situations we may need to, for purposes of their privacy, be able to blur or black out a portion of the image. Also, we're dealing with situations where we may be dealing with an individual or a group of individuals, but there's a bunch of unrelated individuals in the area as well that it may be detrimental to them, or it may be just improper for us to release any video that had their images on it as well, and we would need the ability to go in and blur those images. The software that comes with this program that we're looking to that we would be looking to implement would also have the ability to kind of assist that individual who's responsible for the redactions by looking on its own for things like license plates, computer screens, door alarm panels, things like that, and be able to automatically identify them and then tell you, hey, is this something that you want to redact, that you want to blur out? It has the ability to keep video, but redact out some audio if need be. It's a very comprehensive program, and in order to utilize that with the amount of video that we would be producing, we would need some help in doing that. Next slide. So this is and just stepping back for just 1 second, we don't need to go back in the slide, but in addition to the redaction portion of things, there's also the necessity of sending the criminal cases to the district attorney's office, which would be obviously necessary for us to do. Also, on a retention level, the person in that clerk's position would be responsible to ensure that video is kept for the appropriate amount of time, that they get rid of video at the time that you no longer need it, because there's a lot of video that we would end up having in our possession that didn't relate to a criminal case. It was an interview on an interaction that didn't relate to an arrest, and those videos are not required to be maintained for a long period of time. They are maintained for some period of time, but not for a long period of time. So this is the most current information with regard to the cost of a clerk position, and I think that we tried to be as transparent as we can with the legislature, just like we would want to be transparent with the public. I mean, the costs are what they are, and this is where we're at as far as salary and fringe for the position that we're looking for. And I think the other important thing is that we employ people to do work, and we pay them to do the work that they're qualified and appropriate to do. This work would not be appropriate for a sworn police officer or a confidential secretary or something to necessarily do, because we can do that with a lower tiered position. Next slide. one of the other things, one of the other advantages to this system, and this is this Axon system comes with a software called evidence.com, and that is software that stores the video, stores and assists in the discovery of the electronic files to the district attorney's office, which we definitely do not want to increase the workload at the district attorney's office at all. So this, we're going to make that as easy a transition as we can. The other thing that the software is able to do, and that we would encourage our officers to take advantage of, is right now when we take evidence photos, we take them in a digital format. They go on a card. That card then gets brought in. It gets looked at by our identification officer. The identification officer then downloads the video, audio, or digital pictures from that card to another CD. That CD gets stored. They get then transferred to the district attorney's office. So that's another step in the process. And then the card gets formatted and sent back out to the deputy. What the evidence.com software would do would be allow a secure app to be out there on the deputy's phones. They would be able to take photos, video, audio files. They would not be stored on the individual device. They would be automatically uploaded to a cloud-based storage, which is encrypted and secure. And then that would take some of the work off of that identification officer who's doing, performing a lot of steps. And we're buying, sleeves of CDs and SD cards, to do all this. And we can take some of the physical storage away from that process. Next slide. So looking at our proposal, we're looking at 33 cameras, unlimited storage, the evidence.com program, the redaction software. We would need chargers, obviously, for our officers, and they provide extra cameras at no additional, I don't believe there's an additional cost to that. Looking at the implementation schedule, Axon provided us with a 5-year plan, and it starts off, obviously, the first year is the biggest year because you're buying the physical equipment, and that's a $72,000 price tag in the first year, and then it ends up being just under $39,000 a year every year after that. I believe Lieutenant Wellauer, they said as there's upgrades, that's included in this plan, right? Up if there was trouble and they replace damaged equipment or malfunctioning equipment.
They certainly warranty the equipment. They certainly upgrade the software. The plan that we went with, there's also, I think, 2.5 years in, they replaced the cameras, because we're talking about cameras that are being used, 8 hours a day, constantly. So the Axon company is really setting the standard in body worn cameras across the nation. I don't know if it was already said, but we're going from a point where 10, 12 years ago, body cameras were kind of an interesting idea. We're quickly approaching the time where they're an industry standard, and I don't think we'll see too long before places like New York requires body worn cameras. And Axon, like I said, it's the leading, the trend-setting company because they've been in the business the longest, I think. And so what we're looking at is a whole package, and that's the reason for the clerk position. Because, and I just wanted to touch on real quick, we could be talking 20, 30 hours of video every single day. Video that needs to be in some way organized, sent to the DA's office, tagged to a case number, things like that, redacted, FOIL requests.
With Axon too, having that evidence.com system where everything can be uploaded to a cloud, that limits the need for, we don't need additional servers or potential IT hours here locally. We can just upload that data to their servers and not have to be concerned with that here. So that's another advantage of going with their system.
Absolutely. Next slide. So obviously, whenever you're buying new equipment, it costs money. We have to try and find a way to purchase it. There is currently a federal Department of Justice grant that could potentially yield us $66,000. I think that I've been working with our fiscal officer and Lieutenant Wellhour to put together the application on that grant, which is due into DOJ a week from today. I think that it's going to be a very competitive grant, but I do think that we have at least as good a chance as anybody else. One of the things that we have that's an advantage for us is we do qualify as a rural law enforcement agency, which is one of the priorities of the grant, is to provide financing for smaller agencies, more rural agencies, agencies that have some limited resources at times. So beyond the $66,000, we don't have. I mean, it would be up to the legislature to fund the rest of that. So the next slide just says, do we have any questions?
Is there anything you want to add before we go to questions?
Just quickly, if I could, I did speak to Chief Butler before he retired to the Auburn Police Department. We spoke a few times about implementing this program with both of our agencies, looking for potential ways to, share services, looking for an opportunity. We couldn't really shake that out. I did speak with Chief Slayton recently about that as well, just to explore that one more time. We both really agreed that the volume of evidence and footage that we would have really wouldn't allow us to share an individual to deal with the redactions and the storage and the discovery issues. So, we did look at that. It does appear that the city of Auburn is moving forward with that, but unfortunately, it doesn't appear that, based on the size of our agencies and the volume of data that we would have, that we would be able to do that. But we have discussed that and looked at that. But I don't have anything else to let you do, Lieutenant.
I want to thank Lieutenant Cornelius and Wellhour and the sheriff for bringing this up today and having this kind of first initial discussion. Certainly in the police collaborative, we all discussed this possibility. I'm really interested in this company. I just want to also encourage a collaboration with county IT whenever we're implementing any new software in the county. It's just just a really good idea. There are things that happen that even though it's a cloud-based, that we might need to allocate our local IT to help with those instances. So, but I personally want to thank you for bringing this up this month.
Thank you.
And for following through with the plan, as you're coming forward. So questions, we will start with Legislator Lattimore, then we'll move to Legislator Pinckney.
Thank you for the presentation. I noticed a picture of a modern uniformed police officer. The belt is getting very heavy. Another piece of equipment that he's got to concern himself, but it's probably one that's going to protect him in his line of duty. I'm all in favor of whatever. Is this going to help with recruiting too? That if somebody knows that the work's going to be filmed, will that help with the liability aspect of somebody?
Well, I can tell you that I have discussed this with a number of our road patrol deputies, trying to gauge how they feel about the program. 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think there was a lot of apprehension. that shifted a great deal just based on a number of things that we talked about. The fact that everybody out there has a camera, things that, would make it beneficial for us to have them. So as far as recruiting and people coming to us, I think that the new generation of deputies coming on board, as well as the ones we've had for a while, are very much in favor of having these. So I'm a strong supporter of it for a number of reasons. And I think that they're a positive tool that our up and coming people want to see implemented as well.
And also, this morning, there was a house that, there was murders, there's been all kinds of drug activity on Belvin Street, which is right across from our office. And, it's been a drug house forever. And I've always complained about these things that get shut down. They went in and closed it down. I think the Supreme Court shut the house down forever, which hopefully we can start working with our legals to shut these operations down sooner than later. I mean, it's been 10 years I've complained about this particular house. So hopefully, with cameras going in, we can get this done sooner. There's been guns and everything else. So, thank you.
Legislator Pinckney, and then we'll go to Legislator Petrus after that.
Sure. With technology and longevity, when we expect you to get 5 to 10 years out of these cameras? 3 to 5, 5 to 10, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I believe with the proposal that we have that the cameras will be replaced as needed. So if something's worn out or broken during that time frame, they're going to be replaced. So it wouldn't be a situation where 2 years would go by, the cameras go dead, and now I'm coming back to you looking for more money. That's not how it worked. That would include replacing those and making sure that we have an active program of up-to-date software during that 5-year period.
Legislator Petrus, then Legislator Foley,
Thank
and
you.
then we'll go to Strong.
Just want to say thanks to the sheriff, both Lieutenant Wellauer and Lieutenant Cornelius. Great job. I think you did a really good job on the presentation. I noticed that you guys were emphasizing the perspective of the officer. And having said that, this is what I'm getting out of it. This is what I think. And would it be fair to say that I think it's Graham versus Connor, I could be wrong on that, but it's governing the use of force, right? And from an officer's perspective, which is reasonable and necessary. So I think, would it be fair to say that that's kind of what you guys were trying to articulate, is that this will help the officers by showing what was reasonable and necessary at the time of the use of force.
Yeah, the Exxon has taken that approach, and it's a very smart approach based on Supreme Court decisions like Graham versus Connor. The reality is its perspective should be what the officer sees in the conditions, the lighting conditions. It doesn't tell temperature, but the camera itself dictates on there the temperature and the time and that stamp and everything. So it's designed to basically show the viewer Monday morning what the officer saw at that moment in time. And so yes, if it's kind of a dimly lit scene, you're going to have a dimly lit video. You're going to see what the other party is doing, reaching for, holding, as the officer did.
Just a quick follow-up. I know that some departments have the ability to turn on and off the camera. What's the function there?
Yeah, I mean, they are turned on and off manually. There is some technology, but primarily what you do is you build a policy to dictate how that operates. And the policy isn't something we come up with on our own. The policy is industry standard. So we would design the policy as the industry standard is. They're designed so as the officer turns it on, it actually starts recording, 3 to maybe 10 seconds before you turn it on. So if you jump out, something's happening, you hit the camera, it's actually going to show what happened just before you turned it on. There is some technology with connectivity between that and handguns, that and tasers. I mean, the technology, as you can imagine, is the sky's the limit. But predominantly, that's governed by policy. You turn the camera on whenever you're having an interaction. A lot of the camera footage is never needed or used, but that's the policy. And then we would have to have training in place, certainly, to make sure that people are familiar with, accustomed to, and using them for policy.
I've talked to a number of sheriff's deputies and police officers that actually utilize them already. It becomes just second nature when you're getting out of the car. You don't even think about it. You're not making that conscious decision to turn that on every time. It just becomes ingrained because you do it so many times during a shift. You just, it's muscle memory. You're turning that camera on as soon as you get out. So that's what I've been told by them. And as Lieutenant Wellauer said with the technology, there is technology so that if you unholster your weapon, you unholster your taser and engage a suspect with those that can also automatically trigger the camera. We don't want somebody thinking that they have to turn that camera on before they draw their gun or taser, obviously, but we can look at that technology to make sure that happens automatically.
And just to add to what Legislator Petrus mentioned, it is the officer's perspective, and it is to protect the officer and show what they saw during the encounter, but it's also to protect the citizens of the county and ensure that that people are acting appropriately, whether it's citizens or police officers. This is there to be able to show what happened, and if there was misconduct, we deal with it. If there was something happened that shouldn't happen, we deal with it. But we have the best evidence available to be able to look at and see and be able to make those determinations.
And again, instead of that snippet of evidence that individual we're dealing with may have or witness, now we've got the full picture.
Legislator Foley.
Yeah, I think I've seen some studies they've done in different states that once these body cameras were starting to be worn, it actually reduced some of the frivolous complaints against officers. People see and to act differently in brutality. With that said, I noted that in your presentation you had 33 body cameras for purchase. Road patrol, there's not. Are you just for road patrol, or are there who will be wearing them? And why is that number not necessary?
With sworn, we have 35 for membership, 34 and 35. We've got 33 budgeted. The idea being that all supervisors, road patrol, police officers, detectives, from myself on down would have one. And, it does build in, I think, 4 or 5 stairs. Our talk administratively would be to maybe expand a bit to some of our other areas if the program worked and was acceptable to the county, because I think it's a great program. The sheriff's on a traffic stop or something, I suppose you could take one of the spares.
I don't know if I know how to do that anymore.
It's like riding a bike.
We're gonna go to Legislator Strong. We'll go to Mr. Vitale next.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I think it was great. And I support this program pretty much 100%. I do have one question, and I guess it would have to get into, the operation of the camera itself, but how long does the cameras last per charge, I want to say?
The cameras will last well over 8 to 10 hours on a battery charge. We're anticipating industry kind of standard is that you're using them 2 or 3 hours in a shift. We also have the ability to charge them or have a charger in the car, so they could be put in the car. They just simply clip onto the vest or the shirt. You could clip them into the car. But their batteries last 8 to 10, even longer.
Great, thank you.
Legislator Kerr.
Thank you. Great presentation. Did you follow me?
Yes, and then I'll go back to Legislator Vitale.
Oh, okay. This is something I certainly support. I think it's like you said, the best practice or current standard, the standard that we're moving in the direction of. And if there's an opportunity to take advantage of grant funds to offset some of the implementation costs, I think that's great. I wanted to ask you about the recurring costs a little bit, and with the staffing specifically, do you foresee any opportunity to have that covered or offset through the discovery funding that's come through the county. I know we got one-time funding. I don't know if there's discussion of additional funding from the state, ongoing funding for Discovery, but could this staff person potentially be put into that plan?
That's not something that we specifically explored, but I'm sure that if the opportunity presented itself that we, we could do that, we'd certainly be interested in doing anything we could do to offset the costs, to our budget.
And the 38,000 ongoing cost for the contract with the vendor, is that primarily to cover software upgrades and replacement of cameras, or how big of a piece of that is related to server storage?
That's a significant cost, server storage, and we're talking about a tremendous amount of data. And to do it internally, you're talking about building servers and having IT staff to maintain them. So the greatest portion of that, I would say, is the ongoing storage and software costs. Built into the program, somebody asked about the how long a camera lasts. You can do it. You get the camera year number 1, and you pay for storage and ongoing costs for the 5 years. There's another option, I think it's built into this program, where they replace the camera for 4.5 years. So you have a new camera, updated model. But Axon kind of does a total package where they come in, they quote your price based on number of officers, estimated use, how many cameras, and estimated amount of storage, and kind of put the whole thing into a package. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop.
Well, and another thing to point out is Axon has done their research for sure, because they did not parse out the cost of storage in its own line in the budget that they gave us. And I think that's because there are grant opportunities out there, the one that we're looking at in particular, that do not cover storage costs. But if the storage costs are kind of incorporated in a bigger number that's a multi-year program, then you can include them. But if they're separated out and it's like X amount of dollars per year for storage, then they don't, those costs don't qualify for a lot of grant funding. So they don't specifically put that as a line in the budget. It's just a one bigger number that incorporates everything.
Legislator Vitale, so sorry. And then we'll go over to legislator.
Thank you, folks, but just a comment to Sheriff. I appreciate you touching base with the city and see if there's any way to share. And I can totally understand that one clerk for both departments probably wouldn't be enough. I'm also thinking about days off, vacation time, things like that. So I would suggest it's probably, I wouldn't suggest just dropping it with the city, because maybe by sharing the 2 people, you would have coverage when, one person's out, things like that. And I would always encourage the 2 departments to continue to work together the best they can, because who knows in the future.
Sheriff, do you know if the city is interested in the same company, in the same?
I believe they're moving in the same direction. Axon really is the camera that almost all agencies out there would use. They really have the market corner when it comes to, their storage platform and the cameras themselves. So everyone locally in central New York and beyond that I know and that I'm familiar with utilize Axon cameras. So I believe the city will move in that direction if they do implement the program. It appears that they will be.
Legislator Daley?
I was just curious, every 5 years is the opportunity to lock in the price, and then at the 5-year mark, you re-up it for potential increases, or a different way you might.
Or move in a different
business with
direction
them.
if there's another, manufacturer that we might want to move to, but certainly, yes, after that 5-year period, we would look at that.
Legislator Latimer?
Well, there was a question about the number of cameras in the road patrol being less than, but do we ever wear cameras in the jail?
So we do not have body-worn cameras in the jail, obviously. We do in certain situations, like cell extractions, if we have an inmate that is refusing to come out or doing something that could potentially be very harmful to the inmate or staff. We'll have to do planned cell extractions. We do videotape those with a handheld camera, but that requires one of our custody officers to actually be committed to just standing there holding that camera and documenting that use of force incident. So we don't have that luxury on the road, but in the jail, we do not have any other cameras beyond those that are handheld during those planned extractions. That doesn't include a spur of the moment incident that happens that wouldn't be video recorded, but other than possible surveillance cameras that we have in the jail.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Cook?
Just one other one, in terms of upload of data from the cameras and stuff, would that work in our rural areas? Does it use our internet access to do that, or how does that work in areas with spotty coverage?
Yeah, there's a couple options. We can actually do it at the office because they'll store a lot of data, the camera itself. So they could come in and be put in the dock and uploaded on our Wi-Fi or on our network directly. They could probably do it in the car. It would be pretty slow with the modems that we have. The other option that some places are using, we haven't really explored this, but if an officer takes his car home, has the charger at his house, wants to connect that to his Wi-Fi, it'll upload via the Wi-Fi secure network right to our servers. Those are technologies that we have to explore with our IT, but it has all those options. And maybe it may be a case where once every 4 days, the officer comes in and puts it in the charger or grabs a secondary camera and leaves it to upload. It's pretty quick when it uploads on a network.
Thank you.
At this point, Sheriff, would you be bringing this discussion to the smaller settings or oversight committee moving forward, or is this, or would you like us to digest this like moving forward?
Well, I think my recommendation would be to, we'll apply for the grant funding, see where that goes, and then bring that back once we have an idea of where that lands, and then we can bring that back to the Public Safety Committee.
Mr. Vitale?
Madam Chair, we did have a discussion at JPS, and we encouraged the sheriff to move forward with the grant application. And the members that were there were, the majority were supportive, and then one was questioning. That's my assessment.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you bringing it here today, and I appreciate how complete the information was. And it gave me a lot to think about and certainly discuss.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still involved with our public hearing. This public hearing today is to authorize the expenditure of funds from reserve account number A-18838, the pavilion building and equipment for replacement of a refrigeration unit. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this public hearing today, to this local law? I will close the public hearing in a few minutes. So if anyone would like to call in, the number is 315-294-8051. Okay, at this point in our agenda, do we have anyone here requesting privilege of the floor? Legislator Chapman?
Yes, thank you. I would like to request privilege for Ken Walken. And I think he has a person or two with him. They're in the hall.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they can hear us. If you can, please come in. If not, I'll get up and.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, they can hear.
Hello, you can come right to this podium here.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to do this? Please state your name. So please state your name and address.
Yes.
And this public to be heard section is a limit of 3 minutes.
Very good, thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
name is Ken Wolkin, W-O-L-K-I-N. Presently residing at 4 Evergreen Street, Union Springs. Very good. So first, thank you to Keith Batman for being for the floor, and apologies to all of you for the speed with which my comments are about to unfurl before you. As I've said, I presently reside and spent much time growing up in Union Springs. I'm also presently pursuing a PhD at the University of Washington Department of Geography. Specifically, I study governance, politics, governance relationships, and more specifically, between the Cayuga the Cayuga Nation, and the local municipal governments, both townships and counties here. And so within that work, I think a lot about the way in which the nation-to-nation relationship actually plays out at the local level between townships and counties liaising with the Cayuga Nation. It's something that you all know much about. So I'm here actually to speak about the very sticky issues of our, and permit me saying our, my permanent residence is in Seattle, but residing in Union Springs at the moment, our relationship to the leadership dispute within the Cayuga Nation. Before I proceed further, I should state that I am not a spokesperson, not a representative of the Cayuga Nation. I am just speaking to you as Ken Wolfman, as a concerned citizen. I am concerned, by the way, that my government, both at the local level, the elected local level, and at the federal level, the appointed level, so the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Department of Interior, concerned by the way that my government has chosen to engage in the nation-to-nation relationship with the Cayuga Nation or the Cayuga. Because as much as, we might like to think, well, we don't have to worry about this, right? We're neutral. We stay out of it. This is an internal leadership dispute. We have nothing to do with it. One of the first points I'm here to make today is that that is simply not the case. It's not true. It is not possible. The fact that Clint Halftown remains in power of the Cayuga Nation is an issue in which we are all collectively implicated. And the reason that is because every time that we choose to engage with Clint Halftown, we sort of replicate the harm that the Bureau of Indian Affairs has caused by refusing to acknowledge the many decisions that the rightful governing body of the Cayuga Nation, which is the Council of Chiefs and Clan Mothers, Council of Chiefs, excuse me, as well as the Clan Mothers and Cayuga Nation citizens to whom they are accountable. Some of those citizens, I'm grateful to say, are here today as well to speak to you after my words. So when we say that this is an internal issue, it is in fact one in which we have a great degree of ability to choose how we engage with the nation. I understand the idea that, well, we just have to sort of do what the feds say. And I'm here to say that's not necessarily the case. There's no federal law that says that that is the case. And if you look across the lake to what Seneca County did 2 weeks ago on Tuesday evening, they collectively voted as a board of supervisors unanimously to send a letter to the Bureau of Indian Affairs stating their intention to work with the Council of Chiefs moving forward, as opposed to the Halftown Council. Again, Council of Chiefs being the rightful governing body of the Cayuga Nation. I would ask us to ask ourselves how it is that we can choose to engage with leadership of the nation that is not recognized by the Council of Chiefs, that is not recognized by the Cayuga Nation clan members, that is not recognized by the Cayuga Nation citizens, and that is not recognized by the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Grand Council of Chiefs. For us to proceed in relationship with somebody who is not recognized and has in fact been removed from his position through internal governance processes of the Cayuga Nation, decisions which our officials at the Bureau of Indian Affairs have refused to listen to and recognize, that's a problem. It's one we need to grapple with, and not just sort of stick our heads in the sand, so to speak. So another issue that comes up often in these conversations is that we need to listen to both sides, right? We have to have both parties at the table. Well, I want to speak to the degree of frustration that many of my friends and who are Cayuga citizens experience when they hear this, because one side is an individual who's been around for 20 years, and the only way in which he holds that position is his relationship to federal power, right? The position of federal representative was created by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It is not a position that exists within Cayuga governance historically. It's something that we created 20 years ago. On the other side, you have a system of governance of title holders of chiefs. That system's been around for 5 years. So to put those two on the same plane and say, well, we have to kind of weigh those equally, I hope we can agree is a little bit absurd from a certain perspective. So I would just like to say that every time again that we choose to engage with Clint Halftown, we are replicating the harm of the decision of the Bureau of Indian Affairs to not listen to the Council of Chiefs and Clan Mothers. I'm going to say, well, there's not much we can do about that. Again, I point to what the county across the lake did 2 weeks ago. I have here to share 4 documents. Again, these are publicly available documents, and I'm compelled by the information in them, and I would like for everyone here to take some time to look through them moving forward. So I will give these to the clerk of the legislature to hopefully make copies and either get physical copies or scan them and send them to folks. I'll also follow up with you all in an email tomorrow. 3 of these documents in here are statements from the Council of Chiefs, which address the leadership issue. The most recent one is from May of this year. My understanding is that everybody here received a copy. If not, you'll receive one shortly. In this, well, I'm going to let it speak for itself, but when I read it, what I understand it to say is that we need to do everything in our ability as US Americans to get our government, our federal government, to stop recognizing halftime. And I'm here to convey that there's a lot of momentum and movement behind that issue right now. Seneca County just voted to do it. Without saying what's not mine to say, I believe it's my understanding there are renewed diplomatic efforts on behalf of the Council of Chiefs to achieve this outcome with the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs. There's an ongoing social media campaign, Halftime Must Go. I will share that information with you all tomorrow, that encourages US American citizens to all call their, today it was the Eastern Regional Director of the Regional Office of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Tomorrow it's the Bureau of Indian Affairs Director. The next day it is the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs for
Ken, it's
Department of Interior.
been 5 minutes.
It's been 5 minutes. May I add 30 seconds? No?
Technically, yeah, we try to keep to a consistent level for everyone that comes through, so.
Understand.
You certainly can take a breath. You certainly gave us all the information in a very short period of time, and I appreciate your supporting documentation.
Sure, where can I leave this?
You can leave it with me and I'll make sure everyone gets it.
Yeah, so I appreciate you coming in this evening to share this information with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for listening. I'll follow up and be available to anybody by email and phone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
And you have additional folks with you. So
Yes.
they can also come to the podium and state their name and address. And then it's a 3-minute. And our deputy will give you the warning time. How's that? Yeah. We didn't say we should at the beginning, but we'll give you a warning time. Welcome.
My name is Dylan Seneca. I currently reside in Seneca Falls, New York, Lower Lake Road, 3215 Lake Road, and on this side, 4 Evergreen Street, Union Springs. I just want to add to a little bit of his comments. On behalf of the Cayuga Nation people in these communities and surroundings of Seneca County and Cayuga County, I do understand the frustration on both sides. It's pretty tough. It's pretty hard on each side. But like Ken has said, the governing body recognized is the Cayuga clan mothers and the chiefs. I know there's circumstances of Clint, what he used to get where he is now, but there's treaties to follow. The 2-row. We're in our canoe. Outside governments are in their ship. We are side by side. To not interfere with each and any government. We don't tell you guys or anybody else what to do. You guys don't tell us what to do. Only reason why I'm explaining that is because on this side of in Cayuga County, Clinton has been using his power, money to get where he's at now. He donates Firehouse, which you guys probably already know. He's donating money to any government or anybody that kind of wants to side with him. In our way, I want to offer our peace, compassion, friendship, and ganikuya amongst everybody here. We want to work with the Cayuga County residents for the future generations to come with a good mind. We understand that there is violence in the past that has happened, and I'm here to kind of speak on behalf of how we could dismantle that in a good way where nobody gets hurt on each side. Because we know the frustration it's really hard on everybody here, including us as the Cayuga Nation members. So I'm not sure if you guys know Chief Samuel George. I believe he wants to set up a meeting with you guys in the future. And he wants to talk with some of the legislators here to move forward as one with the chiefs and families as the rightful governing body of the Cayuga Nation. I don't want to take anybody else's time, but I just want to let you guys know that we offer our peace, compassion, friendship, and ganikuya. Ganikuya means good mind. Skad Garinowakungi, we all work together as one with ganikuya, good mind. If you work with the chiefs and panelists, that's what will happen for our future generations. Dealing with Clinton, you're gonna continue to have disruption in your county. Because he works with money and power. He donates to get as far as he wants.
Your 3
Once
minutes
he gets
is
you
up.
guys his way, I'm sorry to take any more time. Any questions, San George will be in touch shortly in a couple of days.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other members of the public wish to be heard?
Yes.
You gonna do it?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to request privilege of the floor for Sue Dwyer, County Clerk.
It's typically the legislator for the address in which she lives.
I will request privilege of the floor for Sue Dwyer.
Okay, privilege of the floor for Sue. Sue, please state your name and address, and again, the policy is 3 minutes.
Sue Dwyer, 214 South Seward Ave, Auburn. I want to talk about the resolution that's on the agenda tonight that deals with non-bargaining. And I want to thank the people that worked on that committee. I know they devoted their time and hard work, and I think there's some good changes, but I'm not the only one that's concerned. There's some non-bargaining people and department heads that have concerns. We believe that the last step presenting this resolution should have been to present this to the department heads and non-bargaining staff. And regardless of the step taking time and hearing everyone out, I know we could have a good discussion, come to a compromise, and present a fair and common sense resolution. After all, the bargaining unit does this when they have a new contract, and they all vote on it. There's a lot more people involved and they have a lot of opinions, but they still come to a decision about it. The reason so many people are upset is about this has happened several times. We have resolutions that have everything to do with non-bargaining. They're presented. We don't even know they're going to be presented. We're not notified and we're not involved in the final process. And we just have to ask, why is that happening? When evaluating the non-bargaining positions, the committee was not given the salaries of the bargaining staff in that department. This resulted in making decisions on starting salaries of supervisory non-bargaining staff, making substantially less than the people they would be supervising. That just doesn't make sense. Another issue is while bargaining staff knows exactly what they are getting when they get a salary increase and when they're getting it, once again, no decision was included to set a schedule or a precise process to give non-bargaining the same courtesy. With constant changes in the legislative body due to elections and term limits, just like any other county, we can't count on all of them agreeing that non-bargaining will get what the union gets. Right now, that's what's been going on, but there's nothing in writing to say that that's going to happen. While the legislature counts on the department heads and non-bargaining staff to get them through changes and challenges, initiatives, etc., just as they count on the bargaining staff. If you cast your vote to approve this resolution tonight, you're sending the non-bargaining a message. Their input is not important. Their loyalty is not important. And they've worked, many of them, many years, and all of that doesn't matter. While all of us would like to resolve this by just passing something tonight to get it done, the same respect, we should get the same respect as the bargaining gets. There's nothing that says we shouldn't get that. Let's do this right the first time. I hope all of the legislative members will take a pause and vote to delay a decision on this resolution tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Like to address it, right?
Who is your legislator?
Oh, Lady Daly would be my legislator.
You are privileged of the floor.
I would, please.
Okay. Okay.
I think it'll be very brief, but my concern.
Could you state,
Could
John?
we ask him to take the podium?
Yes, please. If you could take the podium, state your name and address. And it's the 3-minute limit.
Can everyone hear me? John Budelman, 440 North Stewart Ave, Auburn, New York. Wanted to address this resolution about the non-bargaining pay scales. Madam Clerk just indicated the departments were not consulted. The numbers, I'm not sure where they come from, but they're not in line with what we're paying now. We're having difficulties recruiting, attracting, retaining good employees. These would actually lower the salaries for most of the people in my office. When I say most, I mean like 85% of them. So it would make it that much harder. And when I say lower, I'm talking substantially, about 9,000 to 11,000 or some positions less than people there now. So you're moving on back almost 20 years backward on salary levels. So it'd be that much harder to get them. The other thing is calling around to the other counties. For instance, Madison County, approximately our size, their chief ADA is making 118,000. The range for chief ADA under this would be up to 87,000. Sweet County, their chief ADA is making 110,000. Hopkins County, 131,000 for their chief ADA. And again, the range here would be between 79 and 87 for the 10 steps for 10 years experience as chief ADA. So a 10-year experience chief ADA would make 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 in the surrounding counties. And it's pretty obvious where it's go. So I would ask that this be looked at with an eye toward where we are now, which positions we're having difficulty recruiting and filling for. One of the things that stood out to me was the confidential secretary position would be dropped so far down that they would be making approximately $15 an hour for a legal secretary in a litigation office, which is akin to what you can make at a fast food restaurant or someplace that doesn't require necessarily the same specificity and technicality. And again, when you're dealing with felony level crimes and so on, we can't make mistakes like that. We need top level people like we have right now. So that's it. Thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you. Anyone else requesting privilege of the floor this evening? I'm going to close the public hearing. It's been well over an hour, so we're closing that at approximately 8:45. 7:45.
Oh my gosh.
7:41.
Okay, minutes to approve, July 27th, 2021.
Moving forward. Second, Commissioners.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you.
There are no appointments or reappointments. Communications and announcements, there are none of those either.
Dr. Durant, I see that you're with us this evening. It's time on the agenda for the CCC report.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'll be relatively brief this evening. Obviously, we're in the ending points of August, so we are preparing to commence our fall 2021 semester next week. So we're diligently working to bring in the next cohort in class and trying to re-advise and register students who perhaps have taken a pause over the last year and to re-engage in their academic pursuit. One of the things that's happened in the last few weeks and that we were aware of, but with the FDA announcement yesterday, per SUNY policy, effective immediately, all SUNY students, including those at Cayuga Community College, who have on-campus obligations, whether that mean registered for courses in person, whether that means perhaps work study, perhaps other responsibilities on campus, or the intent to engage in physical presence. They will all be required to be vaccinated in order to be participating effective 35 days from yesterday. We have communicated that with our students. We are working with local officials on, supporting notices of local vaccination clinics. Looking to have clinics on our campuses to, ease the accessibility for those that may need it. We certainly are tracking the data and are logging the activities associated with it. But some of you may have seen in the news yesterday, maybe were aware before, but as a SUNY institution, we had not made the declaration in advance of that because the SUNY policy was waiting until at least one had been formally approved by the FDA. And so we will be working towards compliance. We'll be supporting our students who are not vaccinated at this point through that journey, but it's a quick turnaround. Obviously, when we're talking about compliance within 35 days, if a student chooses to, to take one of the vaccinations that require a wait period for the second dose, that really means those students need to complete the first dose, by about the 30th of August. And so we're doing our best to communicate and to encourage and to demonstrate the seriousness of this requirement for all those impacted and involved. We continue to advocate for the vaccine for all of our employees. At this point, through SUNY, there is not a mandate of all employees and faculty. However, we obviously are working to encourage as many as possible for many reasons, but also to demonstrate the equity with our students as well as we move forward. And so as we look ahead, that's been a great deal of preparation and support. And we're working, we know we've had a great deal of support from our local health department. We're always grateful for the guidance and diligence that exists. And that's been a big piece of what we have been focused on. Tonight in front of you, you have a couple of resolutions to support initiatives of the institution that have been part of our strategy, long-term conversations and updates through the legislature over the last year or two. One of them related to capital support through the process for the Workforce Development Center. Those funds obviously are in relation to the shared services funds that had been saved, but this demonstrates the commitment of our county towards an important initiative as we move forward in modernizing our facility and strengthening the identity within our community of a collaborative workforce development front in a high traffic and highly visible area. In addition to that, we're asking for your support and a resolution for the acquisition of property adjacent to the current college childcare facility. This investment is one that's important to us for possible expansion, improving of traffic control, improving of safety, perhaps green space for student use, and a number of other possibilities. The opportunity has presented itself. We received local contribution support from the Faculty Student Association of the institution for the local financial share. This resolution, if you pass it, will help us. You hold it in trust for us. You have already approved in I think it was last November or December, you already approved the expansion of capital funds allocation that were already secured through our FSA. This is simply to support the acquisition of the property. The funds have already been secured both locally and from the state. None of those funds are asked to come directly from the county. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? We'll start with Legislator Petrus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Durant, just for clarification, now, did that directive come from, for the vaccinations, did that come from SUNY or is it a homegrown mandate, so to speak?
It is a SUNY policy and all 64 campuses are required to be compliant. It's, you have noticed probably throughout the months in advance of this fall semester, other colleges, primarily private colleges, have come out with their sentiments over requirements or not of vaccinations. SUNY colleges have been mentioning for months that it is, it is the intent or the policy once approved that it would go into implementation. And we became aware of this policy a couple of months ago. And, it was always pending FDA. It was in the required fall guidance for all SUNY institutions. So it's not just, it's not a homegrown choice, but it is our responsibility to be compliant.
Legislator Lattimore?
Doctor, I'm very interested in your acquisition down behind the prison on Wall Street. That's to expand the daycare facilities there at the neighborhood house.
Well, the original investment in the Child Care Center, formerly known as the Neighborhood House, has been a very successful venture to us in many ways. We have, we're serving over, and when we're at full capacity in a pre-COVID world, we were at 135 plus children, serving multiple, hundreds, almost over 100 families. And we have a wait list. And we know that this has been a documented critical need of our community and our county for some time. This acquisition gives us flexibility in the future for possible expansion, but certainly the traffic flow for drop off, for parking and enhanced green space to support the different ages of children, we think is an invaluable opportunity for us. And given the opportunity to enhance the space or ownership of the college by, I believe, a city parcel and a half, is going to serve us and our visioning very well and give us the flexibility necessary to not only do what's necessary now, but to be able to be agile in the future as needs may come up. And the other positive about this, as you know, is there's no debt associated with this project at all. So there's not. So when it comes to the risk, when the college purchases something that you hold on our behalf, that's owned by us and to be able to use for the purpose of the college. And so if there was ever a risk down the road where childcare got questioned or whatever it might be, it's still a property that can be utilized by the institution and whatever that need may be at that moment in time.
Yeah, I have no problem with expanding the project. What's the average hourly wage down there? Do you know?
I don't know that. I know recently there has been an increase to try to be more competitive with the other requirements and the other increases that happen with the state. I'll have to get back to you, Legislator Lattimore, on what the wage scale would be for those workers.
And I mean, the other property on Grand Ave, Cornell Cooperative Extension, it's always been a non-tax piece of property, but that particular real estate is very, very important to sales tax and property tax. I know you're going forward with it, but we have to be concerned about taking property off the tax rolls. It makes the burden more on people who are paying the taxes. So.
I appreciate that. My understanding, it's been off the tax rolls primarily since existence. My also understanding is that was on the market for a number of years. And given our partnership and the gift that we received from Cornell Cooperative Extension, we've been able to leverage the valuation of that property to get access to state funds to be able to put into the revitalization of that building. But I understand the concern and I can appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Up next, Legislator Strong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Durant, the child care program that you're getting ready to implement, is that a SUNY program?
So the child care program that's been implemented, the college has a history of it for decades. We changed to this new facility, I believe it was 2 years ago, after its support from the county and investment from our FSA and from the state of New York to expand from, I think it was over 50 plus children we were able to support. The program itself it's sort of multifaceted. And so it certainly has a SUNY component to it when it comes to a grant opportunity that can support students in need to help subsidize the cost for childcare, to help reduce that barrier for their enrolling in higher education. And that's something that has existed. And we do, those students who have children who participate in our center, if qualified, are able to get some financial resources or aid, if you will, to help minimize that extra financial burden while they're already balancing higher education and other life requirements. But it also has historically served and continues to serve as a global community resource, has many, many, many of the children who enroll in that particular facility have no direct affiliation to being a student or a child of an employee. And so that's something that has been part of the fabric of this center for as long as I have been told and in the history of it.
Just to follow up, so if that's a SUNY program, does that fall under the mandate of the immunization for COVID?
So currently, the childcare has flexibility because the language from the mandate from SUNY, this is a great question, is a college student. And so, when we define college student, it would be those that are taking courses, whether they're matriculated to a degree or whether they are, a non-matriculated student, which means they're perhaps taking courses to it also supports non-credit. Given the age of the children in our daycare facility currently, none of them are eligible for the vaccine based on their ages. And at this point, there is no requirement for childcare. This would fall under a childcare provision and not necessarily under the SUNY provision. But thank you for asking the question for the distinction.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Legislator.
Just for clarification, when you talked about multifaceted, so obviously it is addressing the needs of students, and if they qualify financially, it will support them in their academic venture. But this also has expanded daycare for our community. Isn't that the case?
Absolutely. The current reality of the child care facility is that, less than 5% of those who utilize the child care facility are those children of students. At least that's the recent data that I can recall. We can update it if you want. And so it is predominantly a community-based resource that is intentional by us. And also, certainly our vision is to hopefully increase the utilization by students to reduce the barrier for more individuals to enroll in higher education. That's our fundamental mission first. But we also believe that we can accommodate both as best we can, given our current facility and the potential growth if the need arises. We know Governor Hochul, one of Governor Hochul's priorities and supports for SUNY colleges already been communicated and announced, and I believe in the press, is her support and encouragement for child care facilities in the colleges. And that's one that we know is one we're going to support and already do.
Because to me, both of the things you have done in terms of expanding daycare for our community and addressing workforce development, to me, those are real assets that the college has taken to address the unmet needs in our community. So I commend you for it.
I appreciate that. I know Chair Marion Brown is with me tonight, and this is a big part of our vision for our institution, certainly. But we know it's near and dear to our mission as well every day.
Any further questions for Dr. Durant? Thank you, Dr. Durant, for your report this evening.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Up next on the agenda, we have committee reports and individual legislative reports. Legislator Foley.
Just to give a quick update on the Veterans Office hiring of the director. So that's still taking place. And we have met as a committee one time. It is comprised of Mark Strong, Jim Orman, myself, Aileen as administrator, and our HR director. It did hit, I think, a bit of a speed bump, so to speak, with being in between HR directors. Colleen has joined and is doing very well. And we will continue to review applications and move forward as best as we can to get our director hired. With that said, you do have a resolution tonight in front of you that was passed at Ways and Means. Ways and Means 5, that is the authorization for the HR consultant. And if that is approved tonight, that would allow that consultant to hit the ground running tomorrow morning in the form of giving our HR office an extra hand. And they would immediately start working on the Veterans Affairs director position and reviewing that. So I would encourage everyone to try to support that. And thank you.
Other legislative reports or committee reports? Legislator Lattimore?
Madam Chair, if I could, I was privileged to be at a ribbon cutting for Nick's Ride, the old nunnery down at Saint or Holy Family. And I know Ray was there, Ray Rosari was there, and you know, we're fighting this opioid crisis, and I don't know whether, can you say a few words about that, right?
Sure, I think that Nick's Ride has done a really great job for the community. They save a lot of lives. They're very aggressive in trying to get people into treatment. And this is the next step, the evolution of the organization. I think there's a lot of excitement around it. We're looking forward to the continued expansion of support services and drop-in services. I think it's really necessary. We saw what happened when people didn't have support in the pandemic, when they weren't able to be face-to-face. I think this provides opportunity for that, with social distancing as well, you know, so it's a better move for the organization.
I'd like to thank the Bowie family for donation to the cause. And,
right, yeah.
And it was a nice event.
Thank you.
And I think the county, we put funds in.
You guys made an allocation to them a couple of years ago. Yep.
Right.
Legislator Bettman?
Yeah, I have two things, and I'll keep them short. The first thing is the I wanted to commend all the people that were involved in the restaurant voucher program. It's my understanding that 18,000 people signed on, or attempted to sign on immediately, which caused the system to crash, which is more than even Onondaga County. So that's a real testament to and a lot of, I've got phone calls too saying, what the hell? And what I say is that's testament to the success of that program, when that many people signed on immediately, interested in the thing and in this program. Everything we did, we got that kind of public response, we'd be doing really well. So congratulations to everyone involved in that. It's a great success. The other thing I want to mention is it's also ribbon cutting, and that is the Open Door facility in Sherwood was dedicated this weekend. I mentioned this before, but the Open Door project is kind of a central part of the Sherwood historical district, and Door is the home of Isabel Howland, who was Emily Howland's niece. And Emily Howland's being inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame this year. That family was incredibly active in the suffrage movement, as well as the freedom movement with slavery. They were stationed in the railroad. The Sojourner Truth visited them. I mean, it's an incredibly important thing. And I would suggest everyone, go and look at it. The work that can result for the volunteers that did that was just unbelievable. I mean, I've been involved in that project pretty much from the start, not doing work because they had skilled volunteers. I cannot believe from the start to the finish what a phenomenal job they've done. And it's a public-private partnership. The private being people donated in excess of 10,000 hours of work on that building to get it done. But the only thing that volunteers didn't do, the HVAC system, a little bit of the wiring, and I don't think volunteers did the work. But I mean, it's just a phenomenal effort, phenomenal community effort, and the results are well worth the travel time. People would like to organize a visit. I'll be happy to set something up. Although you can do it yourself, just call. I can send the number around the ship log that didn't, but I'll email the number and you can just call and set up a personal tour. Just can't say enough about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other reports or legislative reports? I'm going to share my chair report. So, in here. I'll start with the fireworks. Occurred on August 8th on a Sunday. It's a very wonderful event. I want to thank legislators, Legislator Pickney, Legislator Lattimore sat in on that. all of the people involved with the incident action plan, the permitting that got to the state in time. We did a lot of time and a lot of work in a very short period of time. So I commend them for doing that. And I heard a lot of great feedback from the public. So I'm so happy that we were able to make that happen for our community. So that was great. So thank you. Over the past month, there have been several items and events of special note that I'd like to share with you. First and foremost, I want to officially welcome Mac Pinchak to the 6th floor. Max is serving the role as confidential secretary to the chairperson. If you've not interacted with him in email or over the phone, please stop and introduce yourself. Max has been and will be taking the minutes at a couple of our oversight committee meetings. So we officially welcome Max to our team. He's been pretty valuable to us in the past few weeks. This month, there were 2 distinguished grand openings in our community. One was mentioned here before. Nick's Ride for Friends unveiled their new location behind Holy Family Church. This location provides ample space and resources, including peer support for anyone seeking help with addiction. I want to congratulate Nick's Ride on their success in their opening. The Play Space also had their grand opening this month. Their new and expansive location on North Street in the old Blockbuster building and plaza is a great addition and asset to our community. It's co-located with Cayuga County WIC program and other co-located family services, our Child Care Solutions and ABC Cayuga. There is other space available. They are trying to court other folks to come in, so it becomes a one-stop place for families in need of resources. So it's a really, really wonderful asset. Whose district is that? Who's the North Street? Is that you? Who governs it? Is it Foley? You have a lot going on in your district, Foley.
Yeah.
Very good. No, it's very exciting. Tonight, there is a resolution before you, also was mentioned before, excuse me, for you to consider on the new compensation plan. A lot of work has been done to look at market data to set realistic hire bands for our non-bargaining staff. This is the first phase of this work. New compensation grades have been established. There's also an accompanying resolution to adopt adopting market adjustments for certain non-bargaining positions who were adjusted based on the criteria set in the resolution. Further adjustments will be happening as we move forward. I'd like to commend HR, legislators, and department heads, and our attorney's office. We had department head representatives, I don't want to say everyone, who participated in the process to get us to this point. It's been a long time coming. It's been a few years that we've been kicking around a compensation plan. We certainly have work to do with recruitment in our county and retention. So paying close attention to our salaries will help us in order, to keep folks here and then attract the best that we can to our community. So thank you. I want to thank all responders for coming to the aid of so many who have and are continuing to deal with the flooding issues in our county. Over 7 inches of rain fell over a short period of time during this event. I think it all fell on Mark Strong's property. It certainly fell in your district.
Yes. What did you call it? It's not me, so.
As of Monday, so over 7 inches of rain fell in some areas, and there were other higher levels in localized flooding areas. As of Monday, we recorded just less than 60,000 in repairs and labor at this point from our highway department. This is for work that's been done so far on county roads. There are still assessments being done on roads, and property owners are seeking help from soil and water, for instance, in some cases. We will continue to see this unfold, and I want to thank everyone again for their response. And I did specifically wanted to call out, I don't have my list in front of me. Certainly the sheriffs, 911, APD, the fire departments, all the volunteer fire departments, the city fire department, soil and water, certainly our emergency management office, certainly the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Services. Everyone was on par. Everybody was keeping updated. Communication was seamless. They did a great job. So we'll continue to help folks deal with this event. Our new Chief Information Officer, Thomas Bunn, in collaboration with the Health Department, established a recording about all things related to vaccines and COVID. There's a great question and answer about the vaccine and COVID involved with that video. That is being circulated for all employees in order for them to view the video, in order to make informed choices and make a decision for their own health. So that's been a great asset. We did a live presentation here with Dr. Barb Connor and Nancy Purdy from the Health Department, and it was a great interactive session, and then it was recorded, and now it's like a webinar type of a situation that we can share with other staff. So it was a great way to reach everyone, as we couldn't fit everyone in one room and didn't have to do several offerings at one time. So that was really great. I appreciate Tom and helping us establish that. Related to COVID, our numbers continue to rise in our community. Please keep yourself and your families healthy by following precautions. The vaccine is the tool we did not have last year. Kathleen and Cuddy and I have had 2 meetings with county superintendents this week, and we're all on the same page that in-person learning is best for our children. We need to act as a community to make every effort to keep our kids in school and keep our economy rolling by reducing the transmission of this virus. I will tell you that in the past couple weeks, I had my own COVID scare. I had symptoms, and I saw the need for community testing firsthand. I had a tough time getting a test. I waited a long period of time before I got results. That kept me home. That kept me away from my family. It kept me away from my children. If you are following the precautions to quarantine, it is not easy, and it takes an awful lot of effort. And when I did emerge from where I was held up after getting my results, it looked as if it was a college dorm. So it was really, I was in there a while, a few days, that's all it took. So yeah, it's very difficult. So community testing is something that we're working on in the health department. Of course, nursing staff or eligible staff in order to conduct that testing is hard to find right now. The state, who helped us in the past, does not have exactly all of the help right now. We're going to keep working on that to get the testing. Also, the supply has been a little bit tough to come by. Dale Courier, I know, is in constant communication with New York Response and is trying to make sure that we get the resources we need to kind of have this community testing. But certainly, access to testing is so important right now as positives are coming up, especially with our children. As of 12:01 today, New York State has a new governor. Hold your applause. I am eager to learn of any plans of our new governor, Kathy Hochul, that she may offer in the coming days, specifically related to COVID, our region, and specific to Cayuga County. So I'm looking forward to working with her. I have reached out to their office, and I will keep hounding that office until we can get some work done.
Good for the new governor.
I have also received COVID-related resumed calls with partner counties about COVID. Cayuga County has also resumed our weekly county leadership calls with our local partners, including police, fire, the sheriff, Auburn Community Hospital, CCC, and the health department, as we're monitoring this variant and any other variants very closely. Yesterday, our restaurant voucher program sold out in under 6 minutes. There was a glitch in the system, very unfortunate, and not really quite expected to the way that it happened. What I was told by the site administrator was that we had 18,000 hits to the site, which made it impossible for it to start. In the other counties, this third-party company did this program for Onondaga and Oswego County. They had sites crashing after the initial start, but we couldn't even start. So that was very, very difficult. And of course, it's kind of like a runaway train. From what I've told, they couldn't shut it down and restart it. They're just trying to work through it. Then it was up. So some folks who were waiting were disappointed. And certainly we didn't expect to sell out that quickly. So it's very successful with a lot of happy business owners. 41 restaurants participated. Folks got a voucher. They have until September 13th to take that voucher to the participating restaurant of their choice. And if they were able to download vouchers at $25, 50, 75, or 100, they could take that voucher and have it doubled, or a few of them, and doubled at that restaurant. The participating restaurant will then keep track of them and then send a claim to the county, and then we would pay them out of the rescue funds, the difference. So it's putting money right into the pockets of the restaurants. So we have 41 participating restaurants that are really happy. We are following up after September 13th with a survey to see how these restaurants fare, what was their traffic like, how did this work out for them? And so we'll use that information, and as well as debriefing from the actual company that we use to assess a next round or whatever we want to do as this body, and I'll come back to you and we'll discuss that. So, but overall, it's great success. Let's see. Oh, we have our first shared service meeting tomorrow with towns, villages, in the city. So that's going to take place in the morning. So that's another thing that we have going on the side of things. So we've been very busy. When I say that we're happy that Max is here, Max is very busy. So pre-Max, that's unbearable. So I'm really happy that we have a set of hands here on the 6th floor. Overall, that pretty much concludes the past 4 weeks for me. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Latimer?
Madam Chair, you mentioned the flooding, and I know that there was a lot of planning that went into the Owasco Flats. And I was hoping that maybe we could get a report as to whether or not it was functional, non-functional, whether it had to be bigger. I know it's very hard to have any system try to handle 7 inches of water in any incident, but we need to keep our lake clean. And I think that not only on the inlet, but all our rivers, Brook Hollow and Sucker Brook and all the different ones, we should have retention ponds to hold anything from going into the lake. Deterioration of the lakes all around us is a very, very big concern of mine. Thank you.
We have a lot of issues with debris in the lake, shoreline stabilization issues. We have a lot of issues, a lot of bloom culverts. We, it's really hard. I heard it's like, putting a gymnasium full of water and putting it through a straw. It's a very difficult situation to plan for. But certainly as we move forward, we have to keep these 100-year storms in mind when we're doing any of these assessments of these properties. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to see how our Owasco Flats responded to flood losses.
Would planning have that information, Steve, or would that be the watershed?
Madam Chair, we sent 2 staff members down to observe the situation on the 2nd day of the flooding, and they had waders on and they couldn't get to the basins, but they observed that the basins were full, but they weren't able to take samples to do sediment analysis of what was in the basins because it was too flooded when they went down. And they're going back down this week as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Senator Daly?
And maybe Keith would add on, we attended the Board of Health today, and on the lake topic, Eileen O'Connor reported the level of toxins in the untreated water was extremely high, and higher than it's ever been. And that the good news is obviously the carbon filters were able to, not have any evidence in the treated water. But her caution was, as these levels get this high, you certainly want to make sure that the carbon filters we have installed are going to be able to sustain keeping our drinking water safe. So it's kind of startling news to me.
In addition to the toxin levels, the actual water levels as well affect the intake, and that they move on to a secondary intake, I believe, because the water levels are even higher too. So.
Yes, it speaks to this regional plan that we're talking about.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just, you mentioned Tom Vaughn as our IT director. And I just want to mention that I only heard good things. And I want to take a minute to thank you, Legislator Kerr, Legislator Strong, and Jody Nickerson from IT for serving on that committee, finding such a strong candidate, putting in a lot of work to do so. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. I wholeheartedly agree. So thank you. Okay. concludes my report this evening.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
could I call for a 15-minute caucus?
you may. What, Attorney Graham, is that? Caucus too?
Two. Is which one's nicer?
Two for you.
Back in. All right, so we're back in session. All right, we are heading into resolutions in the agenda this evening. So we're going to start with Ways and Means with Legislator Batman.
And Chair, Ways and Means has 7 resolutions. I suggest we go to 1, 2, 3, and 6.
Okay, can I get a motion for the bundle of 1, 2, 3, 6?
Move. Second.
Okay, discussion.
I like 6 separated, please.
Then I suggest 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3 is the bundle. I have a motion. And a second. Thank you. Okay, discussion on this bundle of 1, 2, and 3.
Just one question. I know I left a message for our Kelly and real property. I know this has been an ongoing certiorari case with First Niagara and the city of Auburn. And do we know what the settlement was?
Yes, there was a chart. I don't have the chart in front of me, but there was a chart associated with the resolution. I think it went from, I'm not going to say because I don't remember, but yes, that was distributed.
But we did have a joint certiorari case with the drugstores. That's not part of this particular one, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I think so.
Okay, any other discussion on 1, 2, and 3 as a bundle? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.
And then if I may ask that we do Ways and Means 5 and then our contract with the consultant, and I have an amendment for that.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Move it.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then I also had an amendment. The original resolution did not identify the consultant, nor did it identify the rate. Those were still in negotiation, when Ways and Means passed them. So the amendment, I think everyone has, but I'm going to read it because it's very short. The Chair is authorized and directed to enter into a contract for HR consulting services, which can change that. Here's the change: with Mike Russell at a rate not to exceed $45 per hour, and for a term not to exceed 3 months or until an HR administrator is hired, whichever is sooner. Without further authorization. It establishes a time limit, establishes an amount, and identifies the person.
A motion for that.
Motion for the amendment, second.
Second.
Okay, discussion on the amendment.
So are we safe with the 90 days? I mean, I really,
Well, we can make it longer. I'm
I
not
don't
sure
wanna
who
make it
came up
longer.
with it.
I don't want to make it longer.
Yeah, I think that the idea is that we can come back. If we need it longer, we can always come back and extend it, but 90 days has a drop dead date. Puts a little pressure on it. In a bad way.
Any other discussions on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed to the amendment? Now we'll take a motion to, for this authorization, or for this resolution as amended.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, any discussion as the resolution as amended?
Madam Chair, would you clarify exactly what we're doing now? We're saying to give increases or not?
So this is for the HR consultant? This is,
Oh, HR, yeah,
Number
okay,
5.
yeah.
Any further discussion on the amended resolution? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you.
And then if we may take up Ways and Means 6 next, authorizing the creation of billing of the finance director for promotion.
Okay. We'll move it. Second.
Second.
All right, discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Lattimore and Petra opposed? That's it? That's carried. Thank you.
Add more folks.
Got it. Thank you.
And then if, I mean, suggest we need to bundle 4 and 7 because one depends upon the other. So if we have a motion to bundle 4 and 7.
Can the bundle 4 and 7? Discussion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table 4 and 7.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, just, and then we just vote. Okay, we're gonna discuss
Madam Chair,
motion table.
table means.
Two ways and means.
I remember, no, because I remember from that Chris Palermo clarified this last meeting. A table means it's tabled to our next legislative meeting. What was it, referral? Referral to committee if you wanted to go to. The motion was to refer to. I think Chris lectured us on that, as I remember.
So where are we referring it to?
I would suggest back to Ways and Means, but I'm open to, I would suggest. So you guys want to go straight to the full ledge? It's fine with me too, but I think we could get
We'll
to
keep tabling it if we do that, but
further discussion.
So what is the movement?
You're making the motion. Which way is the motion?
All right, then, if nobody's gonna give me any input, I would suggest that we, what was the verbiage you used?
Referral, is that right?
Referral, I refer it to Ways and Means.
Okay.
That's the motion.
There's a
I'll
motion.
second.
Second, discussion on the referral.
Just for clarification purposes, what is the intent with referring it to back to Ways and Means?
What's my intent? Based on the education, training, and experience and incredible testimony of several department heads, I think further scrutiny is necessary.
Any other
That is a
discussion?
good- That is a good question. What is that
That's
scrutiny?
what I came up with.
What is the scrutiny?
We need to determine the factors that are impacting both other employees and that have not been considered within this, as well as those that have been considered.
This, if I may speak
You
to
may.
that, this is a hiring range. It does not affect any existing employee. It's a hiring range. Now, there may be adjustments to that range as things go forward, but the time to make those is when there's a position that's open. And the department head says, I think this needs to be reexamined. That's when you reexamine, because that's the impact. The people that have the increases because their salaries are outside that hiring range.
I call the question, Madam Chair.
Okay, call the question. We take a vote. In favor of referral to Ways and Means.
Can we have a roll call?
Roll call, please. One second.
Yeah, ready.
Ready.
Tucker Whitman is excused. Andy Dennison is excused. Ben Vitale,
No.
Chris Petrus,
Yes.
Paul Pinkney,
no.
Keith Batman,
No.
Hans Petcher,
No.
Mark Strong,
Yes.
Heidi Nightingale,
No.
Elaine Daly,
No.
Tricia Kerr,
No.
Tim Lattimore,
Yes.
Michael Didio,
Yes.
Ryan Foley,
No.
Aileen McNabb Coleman,
No. Defeated.
defeated.
So now,
You had, you had a motion and a second. Resolution.
4 and 7.
okay, motion. And so discussion on 4 and 7. Legislator Kerr, and then we'll go legislator Foley. Go ahead.
I guess I have a few thoughts on this. I definitely have some concerns about what we're voting on tonight. I don't think it's the perfect solution to what we're trying to accomplish. I think it's a starting point. Some of the salaries that we are adjusting, it's a long time coming to make some of these adjustments, and the positions have been underpaid for years. So in a desire to move forward with some of those adjustments, I would like to vote on this tonight. However, I have concerns as well about the process that was followed. I do know there was input at the beginning from department heads several years ago. I know that there's been extensive work done by members of this legislature and our own staff to try to get this to the point where it is tonight. And I appreciate that. But I also know that some department heads, and I have not talked to all of them, but several, more than half of the ones that I've talked to felt left out of this process and did not feel valued in the process that was followed. I think one of the most important relationships that we can nurture in this whole business of what we're doing is our relationship with our department heads. We need to look at them differently. We need to value them as trusted partners. We need to look at them as knowing the most about their departments, and trust the input that they provide into some of these decisions. And I hope to see some type of process that allows for that to occur moving forward, recognizing that what we're voting on tonight is not perfect, and there are some other things that maybe do need to be considered, not just for new hires that are outside of the band range, but for existing non-bargaining employees that maybe weren't considered correctly. And we wouldn't know because we haven't had those opportunities for in-depth discussions with department heads that have concerns. So I do hope that as we look at this and we move forward, there's other pieces of this compensation plan that we haven't addressed yet, elected officials being one. I think we need to evaluate the process that was followed and come up with something better. I think we can do better. This is a starting point and it's a living document that really is something I hope we don't just shelve, but really take our time to work through some of the concerns that we've heard. Not just from department heads that spoke out today, but ones that maybe are afraid to speak out or who knows. It's a vote that doesn't have a perfect resolution for me, but in the spirit of trying to address some of the problems, I will be trying to move this forward tonight with you guys.
We will do. Foley?
I would like to call a question.
This is
Like a roll call vote, please.
roll call vote for 4 and 7.
Ready. Tucker Whitman is excused. Andy Dennison is excused. Ben Vitale.
Yes.
Chris Petrus.
No.
Paul Pinky.
Yes.
Keith Batman.
Yes.
Hans Petcher.
Yes.
Mark Strong.
No.
Heidi Nightingale.
Yes.
Elaine Daly.
Yes.
Tricia Kerr.
Yes.
Tim Lattimore.
No.
Michael Didio.
Yes.
Ryan Foley.
Yes.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Yes. Passed.
That concludes Ways and Means, Madam Chair.
Okay. Up next, we have Health and Human Services with Legislator Daley.
Yes, Health and Human Services had 6 resolutions this month. They were passed unanimously at committee. They come through Ways and Means, and I asked for them to be voted on as a bundle unless someone were separate.
Move it, Peters.
Move the bundle.
Second.
Okay. Discussion on the bundle? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those are carried. Government Operations, Legislator Foley.
Madam Chair, Government Operations has 5 resolutions. They have been through covering ops and Ways and Means. Passed unanimously, offer them up as a bundle unless anyone wants to single them.
Second.
We have a second discussion. Legislator Lattimore.
I know we just passed some new ethic laws, and I would under the old laws, I was always under the impression that if you said you had a connection and in number two, Votech is one of the corporations of the Bowie Corporation. I'm all in favor of the project going forward, but I think if I disclose the fact that I have personal or some kind of relationship, I'm still able to vote under the new rules. That was always my concern. I'd like to just see whether or not that's.
Depends on the nature of the relationship. If you have a financial stake in
I don't.
this transaction, then I would suggest that you accuse yourself.
I don't.
If it's just, friends, neighbors, relatives. We all have friends, neighbors, and relatives.
That's correct.
As long as it's not directly in the relationship. Well, most of us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all in favor of the project.
I just forgot. You all set?
I'm set.
All right. Any other discussion on these? All in favor?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Is that from the whole bundle? Are you abstaining from the bundle, or is there just a particular one?
Well, just the that I mentioned.
So that would be GO2.
Number two.
So we will vote again on the bundle of 1, 3, 4, and 5. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I move that as the bundle.
All right. Second the bundle. Thank you.
I'll second.
Mark Strong. Okay, discussion on that bundle. All in favor?
I'll abstain.
Any opposed? I know, so you're good. Now, GO2.
I'm abstaining on the whole.
The fact is, our rules don't allow abstentions unless you have some kind of ethical or fiduciary.
I think you can ask that question, but I don't think I have to answer it.
Well, that's it. I think if we're not sure, he can abstain to be on the safe side. I think that's okay.
That's right. I'm abstaining. Thank you.
So GO2, we have 1 abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Those are carried with 1.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you. For planning, Legislator Pinckney.
Well, for planning resolution, the bundle, it's been through committee and seeks approval. Move it, Foley.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I have one question for plan?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Public Works, Legislator Whitman, so I don't know who his vice is for.
I
Public
was
Works.
vice, I can.
Oh, there you go.
Public Works
Legislator
has 6 resolutions, and I'll offer them as a bundle unless anybody wants something separated out.
Okay, we have 6 res as a bundle. Thank you. Discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They're carried. Thank you. GPS, Legislator Vitale.
Madam Chair, GPS is 1 resolution and chapter committee. Nothing leading me, so I'd like to present it tonight for approval.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Legislator Vitale.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to bring your attention to the resolution that's trying to pass. And according to the County Water and Sewer Authority, is continuing with the development of the regional water system and directing that the state environmental quality review assessment seeker be completed. Mr. Palermo prepared this for me before he left for New York. He's been in my thoughts all night, and I hope he's in everybody's thoughts. Hope he does very well. I would like to present this resolution for approval. Last Wednesday, the Water and Sewer Authority had their meeting, and they passed a resolution to move forward with the seeker contingent upon this body approving this resolution. And it said before that this does not commit Cayuga County to anything other than to move forward with the process in preparing the final map planning and project for us to approve, and then finally to go to to the public for a vote. So,
I'll second it. There you go.
Okay, any discussion on this new resolution presented this evening?
I hope this project and other projects that we've been working on for some time will go forward. And the question I had was Tracy Barriers is now moving on to another project. Is Grant Kyle now our point person with CETA?
I don't know if there's like a vice or something. No, I don't have that. I don't think she's gone until September.
Thank you.
We're gonna all in favor. Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Hold on with your adjournment. I just wanted to take a second to, I would be remiss if I didn't. You know, since I've been in this chair position, we've worked on many initiatives to try to move them forward. And I have a lot of respect and just a great deal of respect, to sum it up, in all of you, in all the work that you do to represent your district. And I know that you all have come with a big heart and you're doing the best you can for your district and for the county. In regards to this compensation resolution, it is of nobody's desire to just push things through. We've had this talked about over and over and over again. We've had executive sessions. We've discussed this. Please, I would just wanted to say, please pay attention to what the work that we're doing. I believe it's also the same group of people over and over who seem to be involved. I would like everyone to just take a self-assessment moving forward. What is it that you can contribute? Some of you work full-time, some of you have a difficult time, but I'll tell you that it is frustrating to get to the end when the work's been done over a period of months and it's a lot of hours logged in of people trying to do the best thing for the county. Nobody here is trying to do anything underhanded. We're trying to move things forward. Compensation of our department heads and our non-bargaining staff is so important to all of us. We want to retain the people. We got a resignation recently. It's devastating to lose people and their institutional knowledge of our county. We want to retain people. I just wanted to say, you know, please, when you see these emails and when you know these things are going on, please join in, please ask a ton of questions. And, you know, it's just easier than waiting to the last minute and for folks to feel upset or have hurt feelings about this. So I just wanted to say it, put it out there, but I respectfully to all of you, and I know you all have your own lives and restrictions, so.
Madam Chair, one thing you could do for the rank and file is the hazard pay. Would you disperse that money, please?
That is not
Under the
something,
relief package?
that's nothing I can do independently of this body.
Well, would you bring the discussion up?
You actually have the power to bring up that discussion.
Brought it
That
up.
would be great.
Thank you.
Legislator Foley?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
second.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention this evening.
Oh, thank you.
And